Great player, 12-time All-Star, a Hall of Famer back in 2000. He's a broadcaster and a pretty good one at that. Turner, TNT, and, of course, NBA TV. And his name is Isiah Thomas. Zeke, Tiki, and Tierney, what's up, buddy?
I'm good. How you guys doing this morning?
We're doing all right. So we're trying to search for a couple of stories that, and I don't know, you probably heard what I said before you popped you on. I mean, usually the first round, get out the broom, a lot of teams that have no shot. They play 4 games, they go home quite quickly. I feel like, Isiah, this year could be a little bit different. Am I just kind of living in the moment, or do you think this first round, at least compared to some recent history, has a little more juice than usual? What do you think?
No, I think you're right. Especially when you look at the East, and you got the 1 seed Boston against Chicago, which to me is the most intriguing matchup because arguably, you look at Rondo, you look at Wade, you look at Butler. Those 3 guys will probably walk out on the court feeling like they're the best 3 players in the series, even though they may not be. But they'll have the attitude, and they'll think that they're the 3 best players out on the floor. Boston is the best team, but I don't know, other than Isiah Thomas, does anyone actually feel that they're better than the other, 2 or 3 guys that they're going to be facing? So that gives Chicago a huge confidence advantage walking in because there's no fear. And then you got those 3 guys. When you're looking at Wade and Rondo, 2 former champions, and Rondo having the incentive to go back and upset Boston, it's just a lot of intriguing. A lot of intriguing matchups, and it's great intrigue for the fans.
Isiah, what's interesting, and maybe your team, the championships, the bad boys, maybe you actually kind of fall into this category. Not many champions over the course of history have had just one elite scorer. You were that guy. Obviously, you had Dumars who can go nuts on a night. Vinnie Johnson off the bench. Lambeer could shoot, and kind of rotated between Dantley and Mark Aguirre, your buddy, when you guys brought him in for the second one. But I feel like you guys were unique in the sense that, much like the Celtics this year, outside of Isiah Thomas, they don't really have that true guaranteed 20-point secondary guy every night. And I don't know if you can win that way, or at least win enough to get deep into June. That's a big problem for the Celtics. How do they overcome it?
Well, you can win that way. It's just not as glamorous. It's the old-fashioned way of winning, where the team is greater than the individual. And the way the Celtics go about winning, even though Isaiah's a great scorer, they get great contributions from other players that come in. Like you can't underestimate the value of a Crowder, of a Bradley, of a Olynyk in terms of the things that they bring to the table. And even a guy like Horford, we've watched Horford, his whole college career. He won back-to-back championships at Florida. Then he's in Atlanta. They dropped a 60-win season on the league. Have 4 All-Stars on that team. He leaves now he's in Boston, and Boston has the best record in the East. Now the things that he does out on the floor, they're really not measurable things statistically in terms of the stat sheet. But when you measure his winning impact on the team, it's dramatic. So Boston brings that old-fashioned team flavor to the table, where the other teams, they do bring the superstars to the table.
Old school approach, no doubt. Isiah Thomas, old school himself, a Hall of Famer, 12-time All-Star. He's with us here on Tiki and Tierney.
Isiah, let's stay in the East with the Cavs and the Pacers, the 2-7 here. Look, the Pacers barely made it into the postseason. It only did because the Atlanta Hawks didn't play anybody in the last game of the season, and Paul George went bonkers with 32. Jeff Teague got hurt, though, in this game. But the question really is about the Cavs and whether or not they can, that proverbial turn it on when they have to. Do they have to have a dominating performance here in this first-round series? Otherwise, we'll keep asking this question until they prove us wrong.
So they don't have to be dominant in the first round against the Pacers. This is the ideal matchup for them because offensively they can just overwhelm the Pacers. Defensively, is where they're always going to struggle, in my opinion, in this postseason. And last year in the postseason, this defense is where they were the most dominant. As you said, it's hard to turn it on and turn it off. And we always measure NBA players, and most players, we measure them by the offensive end. And you can turn on the offense. But the thing that you have a difficult time turning on is defense. Defensive rhythm, defensive intensity, defensive passion and energy. All those things are played at a higher rate of repetition in terms of your output, your energy output. And the physicality you have to exert on the defensive side of the ball, it does tax you. It does make you tired. It does fatigue you. And then it shows up on the offensive side. And since we measure the offense the most, those are the things that we say, well, Cleveland's tired. But really what will get Cleveland, I think, in the end, is their stamina. Will they be in shape enough to really ramp up the defensive end and sustain it? We saw last year that they were, to the point that at the end of the game, we saw Kevin Love shut down Steph Curry in a game-winning situation out on the perimeter where he had to slide his feet.
Oh, yeah.
So they played with great defensive energy and stamina last year. I don't know if they're in shape enough to turn on the defensive stamina that they're going to need.
Now, with that said, at the beginning of the season, the narrative was easy. We're going to get a third Warriors Cavaliers in the finals. Are they your favorite coming out of the East?
They have the most talent. The team that I think that could give them the most problems and probably upset them is the Raptors. I look at Toronto and the way they've been playing and the additions that they made at the break, and adding Ibaka and adding Tucker. They can bring the physicality to the game that no other team in the East can bring to Cleveland. Their back line is big and physical. And also when you go out front and you look at Lowry and you look at DeRozan, DeRozan has had, a spectacular year. So point for point, he can match up with LeBron James in terms of scoring 25 to 30 points in a game. Then on the other side of the ball, can Cleveland, again, amp up the defensive stamina and energy to go into Toronto and win a game or two? Because I do believe that Toronto can go to Cleveland and win a game.
Zeke, I'm kind of with you here. I mean, and I know that it doesn't work this way, but just as a point of reference, kind of an interesting part of the conversation. If the Raptors had Tucker and Ibaka for 82 and Lowry stayed a little healthier than, missed a lot of time, as we know, they're probably the one seed in the Eastern Conference.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I think when you look at talent for talent, there's, Cleveland arguably has the best talent because they have LeBron James. But the second most talented team in the East is Toronto Raptors.
And they got great fans. And they have great fans. And you know that when you're up there. But their fans, it's like a hockey atmosphere. That place is popping. So talking to Isiah Thomas. Isiah, of course, has done it all in the league. And he's with Turner and NBA TV and TNT, the exclusive home. More NBA playoff games. Any network, they're all over it. We'll be watching every night. Triple header, on Sunday. You got first and second round action and the exclusive presentation of the 2017 NBA Eastern Conference Finals. That's a nice get for you guys. All right, so the Warriors, we'll push them through a couple of rounds, obviously, because they're just so talented. But we know that they lost, people who really follow the game, we know that they lost some important complementary pieces, some depth, some grit, some size, guys coming off the bench, guys who mattered. When does that catch up with them, if at all? Do you think that that's a problem as we get into June and even late May, do you think, Isiah?
I don't see that really being a problem for them out west because there are really no defensive challenges for them. They have so much offense that I don't know if teams can keep up with them offensively. And defensively, there's only one team out there that it really gets down and it's kind of gritty and that can really shut you down defensively, and that's San Antonio. Where San Antonio is weak at, though, is at the point guard position, where Golden State is extremely strong at with Steph Curry. Kawhi Leonard out on the wings, he and Danny Green, they can do a good enough job. But at the point guard position, they have no answer for Curry. So I don't necessarily see Golden State having too many problems out west, because the one team that people say may give them a problem is Houston. However, you're going to get into a shootout with Curry, Durant, and Thompson. You're not going to win that. I mean, it's just not going to happen. It'd be great entertainment, it'd be a great show, but at the end of the day, they're going to win that show. So I don't see anyone defensively really challenging Golden State and making them play a different way than they're accustomed to playing.
Yeah, I'm with you. Isaiah, I want to ask you about the complete antithesis of the Warriors, and that's the Knicks. And Phil Jackson. Oh, how nice of him, Isaiah.
I thought you were going to ask me about the Liberty.
Hey, man. Hey, listen, they're better than the Knicks. I know that.
One seed in the East the last 2 years. We just had a draft. We're coming up on our third season here, and everything's good.
Hey, listen, I'm not mad at you, but and I'm not rooting against the Liberty, but I'm more concerned about the Knicks here.
I got to get the Liberty a plug. You guys got to come to a game too.
I'd love to. Actually, you know what? When my daughter's only 8 months old, I would definitely I would definitely go to a Liberty game. I'll take you up on that, as long as you get us on the front.
Hold you to it.
But Isaiah, front row, dude. I want where Spike sits. Otherwise, we're not coming.
We're not sitting in the rafters. We don't want a suite either, because those are way up there too.
Although now they're nice. They redid the garden. Let me ask you this, though.
You just don't bring the Clippers. You're not cutting anybody's hair.
This guy.
Hey, we're bald here. We like it that way.
Yeah. Here's the problem, man. I mean, Phil Jackson, good God almighty. I mean, how nice of him to finally come out of his hole and address the media. It's only been basically a year, which is criminal. Now, people forget you ran the Knicks, and you were there for a couple of years, obviously. And even though you didn't win a ton on the court, you drafted some good players, and you never hid. You were always available to the media. Phil Jackson has a real dilemma on his hands because, listen, with all due respect to Carmelo, he can't move anymore. He's a fire hydrant on defense. He's a ball stopper. He's got to go, in my opinion. If you really want Porzingis to hit his apex, I think Carmelo's got to go. If you're running the Knicks right now, what do you do with Carmelo Anthony?
Lucky for me, I'm not. And, being inside the house in the position that I have, that's a difficult question for me to answer. Not that I'm running from it, but answering that question will cause more problems for all of us in this city than we want to take on right now.
Won't cause problems for us. We'll get a nice plug for the show here, man. Talk away.
Let me ask you this though, Isaiah.
Come to the Liberty game and we're talking.
Yeah, right. But do you think Carmelo? I mean, we got to ask this because it's our job. Do you think Carmelo's the Knicks next season?
I really, and this is just me being a fan of Carmelo and also knowing him. I really do hope he is. And the reason why I say that is he's been nothing but professional while he's been here. He's been a pro's pro. And regardless of the situation, number 7 puts on a jersey every single night. He walks out on the floor and he plays. And that is very difficult to do. And Tiki, you know this. There are some guys that just lay down and quit on you.
Yeah.
During a bad season when things are going well, they don't come out, they don't play. And he puts on a uniform every night and he comes out and he gives his all. I didn't hear Carmelo at one point in time saying, "Hey, this is a rest day for me. I'm gonna take off." I always thought that he came out and he played and he performed, whether he was injured, hurt, no matter how good or bad the season was. And, just a couple of years ago, he was being talked about as the MVP of the league, and they were winning the division and they were going deep into the playoffs. Throughout this, as I said, I'm a fan. He gave us, good years, some of his best years, his prime years. He came here and he tried to win, and I don't think he laid down on the Knicks or laid down on the Knicks fans one day. So I respect that.
I agree with that, by the way. And my problem, even though I certainly am adamant that it's, and it's going to be healthy for him to probably go as well, and he's got the no trade, so it's obviously in his corner. He's got the hammer.
But, that's really all you can ask of a player. That's all a player can really do is give of himself.
But, Isaiah, that's why my problem at this point more is on Phil. How could this guy run the New York Knicks, one of the most visible entities in the world, and not be heard from since September 23rd? That's criminal. You can't run a New York team and hide. I mean, well, listen, I know there's certain things you can't say, but Phil Jackson's got to go. He's gotten $60 million, and he's made this worse. He's been a disaster. But that's just me, Isaiah. You don't have to comment on that, buddy. We'll talk at the Liberty game.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That means we get front row and free drinks.
Hey, man, listen, keep doing your thing, Turner. I do watch you a bit, quite a bit. You're really good on TV. I enjoy your candor. TNT, of course, NBA TV, all the playoffs, all that stuff. You got a fun crew. You guys doing nice work. Thanks, Isaiah.